Republicans are just now realizing that they are being screwed over by Donald Trump's big, ugly bill. And whether they care or not is not as clear. I'm joined today with my good friend Cam Caskey on the FY Pod. Cam, Republicans seem pretty confused about this legislation, don't they?
Well, I don't think they know what's in it necessarily. I am glad Chuck Schumer was able to rename the bill, but this one is pretty devastating and pretty disastrous. And if you went up to all of its supporters and told them what was in it, but said that it was a Democrat bill, they would say this was the most atrocious thing the party's ever done.
Yeah, Republicans in Congress would certainly do that. And some of them are actually trying to deny knowing anything about it. But the people, the voters who made this bill possible are the ones really getting screwed over. But Lindsey Graham was one of those Republicans who said, well, I didn't know this was in it or that was in it. And I guess it's because he was so swayed by Donald Trump, apparently. Chris Hayes did a little reporting on how this bill got through, and it's because of idiotic Republicans like Lindsey Graham. Before we get into the MAGA voter who admitted that this bill is now going to screw them, I want to start with why Lindsey was so excited to vote for it.
Before the Senate passed the bill, Trump hosted a handful of Republican senators at his Virginia golf resort before they voted his way. One of them, Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, told The Times he likes hosting people. It relaxes him, quote, Mr. Trump told him, Lindsey Graham, he could go to the pro shop and pick out a shirt. Go pick out a shirt.
Chris Hayes and I played the same character in a musical called Spring Awakening in high school. I posted about it on my story, and he swiped up and he was like, oh my God, I was Melchior.
And that is one takeaway from the segment. The other takeaway is like, what? You're swayed by the swag bag? That like you're willing to throw tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people off healthcare in your own district because you got like a shirt and like a signed hat? It's crazy. It is crazy that someone who has created so much unilateral power in Donald Trump, one, has gotten everyone to just give it to him freely. Like that's how, like they've just given it over to him. But also what he's doing with it is just really so embarrassing. And we saw that as Trump talked about the reason a MAGA Republican is being screwed by Donald Trump's big ugly bill. And it's his tariff talk, which is now restarted and somehow gotten pushed back. We've made less progress, but we've retracted progress. Trump was asked about his tariffs last night, and it explains why MAGA is about to get screwed even more than before.
So we're going to start sending letters out to various countries starting tomorrow. We'll probably have 10 or 12 go out tomorrow. And over the next few days, I think by the 9th, they'll be fully covered.
Cam, is this the art of the deal? Is the art of the deal retracting on the tariffs being lowered and then bouncing the tariffs back up in the form of a strongly worded letter that doesn't explain why the tariffs? What is happening? Am I the only one who's just baffled by his idiocy?
I think the overarching theme of this conversation is just the whole Trump has a plan narrative is obviously always so busted. Mm-hmm. Trump either never has a plan or in the rare instance when he does, it's a bad plan. Yeah. But, you know, him swaying Republicans by offering them swag bags, it's rotten when he does something like what he did with Murkowski, where he says, OK, I'm going to carve some stuff out. You know, we're going to move some stuff around to make it fit your state a little better. So you go ahead and vote for it. Mm-hmm. But, you know, there's a difference between giving somebody some incentive to kind of break their morals and vote for something by throwing them a bone and just giving them a T-shirt. This tariffs thing, it's sort of like, what was the plan with the tariffs in the first place, right? They got announced. The economy got absolutely shaken up. There were permanent effects on the U.S. because people all around the world no longer see us as a stable trading partner. Even if a Democrat comes into office and cleans everything up in 2028, we are still going to be seeing the effects of these tariffs because people all over the world who had some sort of trust in America as a reasonable person to do trade with are now going to see that at any point our democracy is so fragile that someone can come in and just fuck it up down and sideways.
Yeah, and the people who we need to trust us, other countries don't, but the people who do trust us only trust Donald Trump, and they're admitting that they know that he's screwing them over, but I guess they kind of don't care, and that's what we saw at a Trump rally yesterday in Iowa. It'll just make you so sad.
I work for a company, Detroit Stoker, and they do industrial boiling. The system that moves it into the furnaces, we have customers all over, but the tariffs is really hurting that company right now because the parts are being coming from China, the castings and the tariffs. We got a lot of stock that is supposed to go out of country. Universities, everybody, and it's sitting on our dock because the customer doesn't want to accept it because of the tariffs right now.
Because it's too much for them to take it in.
We've had numerous containers come in the last couple of weeks because we've been storing it in a bonded warehouse before it comes to us, saving us money to try to pass this to the customer.
Import taxes are a real problem. And you know what's interesting is you're here. This is impacting your industry directly, but you're like me and you understand the fact that it's the long-term gains. It's going to hurt for a little bit, just like President Trump told us.
The people I work with when they did the tariffs, because it's hurting our company, they were so mad. I go, listen, this is going to be temporary, but it's for their future. It's for your kids' futures. It's got to happen. Something's got to happen. Otherwise, the country will go broke. So.
What would you say? President Trump has from time to time been known to watch RSBN, and we're grateful for it. What would you say if he was watching right now and you had his ear?
You're doing a fantastic job. Keep it up and making America great again.
We got it. I can't.
Thank you.
I can't. Cam, so we're the kids. We're the kids that the promise of America is being maintained for. Do you feel like it's been made great for us now that we have tariffs? Again, she said, like, they're going to stop eventually. And I'm sorry, I just have to go on a rant here. The cognitive dissonance of MAGA around tariffs is one of the most shocking things I've ever seen, because they will say that the tariffs are great and we need the tariffs. Mr. Trump is he's doing so great with the tariffs, but that woman just said it's about the long-term play when they take away the tariffs. So the tariffs aren't good. It's putting them on and off that's good, in their opinion, because there's a deal coming, but there is no deal coming, and Trump doesn't seem to have made a deal or to want a deal because he wants to keep the tariffs. So I just need someone to go on the record and tell me what's good, because it appears none of it and all of it, and I'm losing my mind. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Well, they just don't know what any of this stuff is, right? Like, there was some small community, I believe in Iowa, but if not in a similar state, where the hospital's closing. Mm-hmm. The hospital's closing because all the people who are going there were on Medicaid, and now they're getting cut off of Medicaid. And that area where the hospital is voted overwhelmingly for Trump.
Yep.
And it kind of brings to mind a conversation that we have regularly, which is, what is it going to take for these people to learn the consequences of their vote? Mm-hmm. Because most of the people who are going to be getting screwed over by the big, ugly bill are people from red districts.
Yes.
It's people from the parts of this country from which the Republicans derive the vast majority of their support. They're going to be facing the real consequences. The liberal elites that they're always talking about are not going to be dealing with this in as devastating ways. Well, so it's really shocking to see, and I am curious to see how people are going to react once the hospitals close. You were talking earlier about what's going to happen when doctors and lawyers can't get student loans. I'm curious what you have to say about that.
Well, yeah, and just on the point of the hospital closures, I think a few things of it. One, the first is that Republicans have responded to what they know will be a looming crisis with putting together a little slush fund for rural hospitals, which begs the question, well, why did you have to put together such a slush fund? Is something going to be happening in this bill that will make hospitals close? What is that? What is that thing that will make them close? It's just insanity. But, it makes me think, we look ahead to 2028 and like what we have to do to fix this and repair like relationships on the world stage. I think about the principle in physics. It does take more energy to get an object in motion than to keep it moving. And it's like, we'll have to restart the entire country. You don't just turn a closed hospital back on. That doesn't happen.
Well, it's like when Doge was cutting cancer research programs that have been going on for over a decade.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was debating some MAGA dude on some podcast, and he was talking about how we put them on pause so we can reassess whether or not these were worth the money. And I'm like, you don't put cancer experiments on pause.
That's just not how it works.
Undo things like that. So,
and in the similar vein of how we have conversations about, how a whole generation of kids might not be able to read, it seems like we're going to be missing out on a whole generation of doctors right as we need them most. Doctors, lawyers, anyone with actual intellectual expertise, something that MAGA hates. And we saw a breakdown of that on the platform for the kids, TikTok.
Medical school is for rich people. 25% of all medical students come from the top 5% of household incomes. And that number is likely to grow if the big, beautiful bill is passed. It's proposing to put a cap on the amount of federal student loans that medical students can take out at $150,000. To give you some context, the medical school that I'm going to be attending has an estimated cost of attendance of $110,000 per year, meaning that students are going to graduate with nearly $450,000 worth of debt, and that's not including the interest that starts to accrue from day one. And by capping federal student loans at $150,000, that means $300,000 are going to have to come from private lenders, which tend to have higher interest rates and worse options for repayment. So not only is this bill going to disproportionately affect lower and middle income students from being able to pay for medical school, but it's going to put a pressure on future medical students to pursue higher paying specialties so that they can pay off these outrageous loans. And that's going to even further exacerbate the primary care physician shortage that we have in the United States. At this point, the only thing we can really do is reach out to our senators and hope that the bill doesn't get passed, but I'm trying to bring awareness so that people understand what's going on.
And a lot of what we're going to get, by the way, is people who are completely underqualified for these positions that are going to be empty, getting placed in situations where they could put people in a lot of danger. Ron DeSantis is deputizing immigration judges with his minions in Florida, because despite the fact that we are detaining infinitely more immigrants than ever, we are not increasing the amount of immigration judges that we have. Mm-hmm. So we're basically creating a new crisis. And of course, this is more about attacking Hispanic people than it is about attacking immigrants. And you see that when Laura Loomer, who's had Trump's ear quite a bit, was tweeting that we had 65 million people to feed to the alligators, which is not the amount of illegal immigrants we have in the country. It's the amount of Latino people in the country. With things like a doctor shortage, with things like a lawyer shortage, also with things like our already existent teacher shortage, because MAGA loves attacking education. Educated people vote blue. This bill has consequences that everybody's going to be facing. People kind of forget that Joe Biden did quite a bit to support people who are in student loan debt. And the MAGA world is what I think is going to happen. And you were talking about the slush fund that they were putting together for the hospitals in rural areas that were getting fucked over. MAGA and Trump, obviously, they love to take things from people and then give them a smaller version of what they took away, and then make it look like it was some sort of act of charity. And the voters are grateful for it. So before we wrap, like when you talk to Democrats about this, I know a lot of Democrats come to you and say, how the fuck do we talk to people about this? What's your response specifically in regards to the big, ugly bill?
Well, I have a first response. I just wanted to show that right there. That's a MAGA voter. That's a little horse in their Elmer Glue hat. That's how I feel That's how I feel about MAGA right now.
Is that true? That the glue is made out of horses? I
don't think like all glue is made out of horses. Like I don't think they make glue out of horses anymore. I think there might be horse components. Jamie, can we pull that up?
There was an episode of The Simpsons where they had a horse and Homer threatened to bring it to the glue factory. But what about horses makes glue? I don't know. We'll do a horse glue video.
We'll do a glue episode. It's like fat in whales, how they use the lard for things at some point. Right. I think we've found chemicals to do that. But anyways, my thing is, and we talked about this before, I guess people do have to feel some pain. They do have to understand the connection between voting for Republicans, tanking the government, losing their health care. But what's so insidious about these cuts is that they don't actually begin to kick in until after the midterms. So people won't begin to feel these effects with the cuts to Medicaid because they did push them back long enough where they wouldn't be held accountable. So again, we're coming to this place where it will be a Democratic president inheriting this crisis, which will then be blamed on them. It's the actual reason why Josh Hawley, who wrote his op-ed saying don't cut Medicaid only to declare victory yesterday, justified voting for the bill because he said eventually we'll just fix it. We're kicking the can down the road. So Donald Trump doesn't have to deal with the effects. He's put it on he's put trillions of dollars on the national credit card to make sure that billionaires get their tax cuts. Now he's going to be paying for it by handing it off to a Democratic president, unless he declares himself God King. And that's the situation. So we just have to message it as much as possible And, you can say message as much as possible. I don't know necessarily what that means all the time. What I think we need to do is go out and tell the most personal stories possible. Please do not go on Rachel Maddow alone and say, well, the 1.2 trillion of the deficit in the undercut of this, don't say 3-letter agencies. Don't start throwing out numbers. People will fall asleep. Go stand outside a hospital. Go stand outside a nursing home. Democrats, go interview people who are going to be kicked out of their medical care and put it on, I don't want to be put it on TikTok, but seriously, put it on places where these actual stories can go viral and impact people. Because unless they see it, they're not going to know, because they're not going to care about your numbers. So that's my message. Go actually be in the places where the horrible shit is about to happen. Because if you care about it, then go be about it.
And human stories just go further than the stories that you get from the consulting class about how, like you said, this number is going to affect this number is going to affect this number. No, we need to talk to the nurses whose careers are getting devastated. We need to talk to social workers who work for nonprofits that are going to lose their job because the majority of people who they help are receiving assistance from the government that gives them access to that help. Talk to the single mothers who rely on SNAP to feed their children while they're trying to put themselves through school, but can no longer afford to put themselves through the master's program that they need to get the job that would make it so that they can afford school, and they don't have SNAP to feed their kids anymore. We need to tell these stories. We need to talk to these people, and hopefully we will be soon, and you can hear a little bit from them. Jack, thanks so much for joining today and for kind of taking the reins and really being the real host here. Everybody, please leave a comment down below of something. I don't really know what you'd have to say other than, oh shit, we're fucked. And like and subscribe to Jack Cocchiarella and the FY Pod channel.
Mostly the FY Pod channel.
I would say Jack's second family, the home he comes to for warmth and love and comfort from me and the rest of the Bulwark family. And you will be hearing from us very soon. Happy 4th of July. Happy end of America. We'll see you soon.